Okay, DHCP and DNS are two essential services in IT network. While a DHCP server sends out information that client needs to communicate with the other machines and services, DNS ensure that server, client, and services can be found by their name. DNS, meaning of DNS is the domain name system. DNS, in short, is an absolutely elementary component of the internet. While many users and most admins have some idea of the term DNS server or name server, the actual structure of the DNS system and its basic functionality is often unclear. Therefore, it's not a bad idea to look at the central aspect of the topic DNS before looking at an aspect of DNS in detail. Okay. The phenomenon began the simple name, the Internet, actually a global network of very many individual computers, naturally direct connected, do not exist from each computer to every other computer. Okay. Instead, the computers comparison the internet are persistent and into okay individual network segments. Within their network segments, the system communicates directly the one another. If a server from one segment wants to connect to a server from a different segment, it must use a router. But how does a server know how to reach another local server or another server in different segments of the network? This is a question. Okay. Here is where IP address come into play. In IP address is a sequence of number in 32 bits from IPv4 or 1 to 8 bits from IPv6. IP stands for Internet Protocol, which highlights this principle's general validity. The IP address of the computer containing this block, for example, is 217.160.058. IPv4. Okay, the NAS consists of thousands of servers working together in one server. Cannot resolve a name of IP. It can contact another server that can then ask the next one, and so on. A DNS server in a private network is also responsible for the name resolution. If it known all IP addresses and name of devices for external queries to the internet, the local name server can contact one or more external DNS servers. Okay.
What exactly is DHCP? As we see that it's dynamic host configuration protocol that dynamically attach the IP addresses and other configuration settings to network devices. So it's very simple to join devices such as desktops, laptops, and smartphones because administrators do not need to configure each device manually anymore as a DHCP server complete the process. And that's why DHCP is perfect for dealing with ever-changing clients in large networks, whether it's institutions, corporations, or other organizations. And so you can choose to allow a DHCP server to provide for IP addresses from define pool as well as identify clients by their MAC address, which is media access control and network interface controllers unique identifier. Yeah, and with a former, clients can actually obtain alternate IP addresses, helpful, really helpful, especially when the server issues addresses out of a small pool to a large number of devices not active at the same time. And then with the DHCP server assigning static addresses, clients receive an identical IP address IP address whenever, and which is optimal for the network services and certain machines that require to be available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And also the DHCP server identifies exactly the length of the time the IP address has been in effect, and however, it tries to extend the time automatically whenever the client is still active or and the deadline expires. So this is not something that users usually notice, take notice of between the server and the client. And well, as already described, the DHCP server allows the clients to transfer other pieces of data, such as subnet mask, name server, domain name, gateway as well, or including even data for network boot. I don't know, network time protocol, as well as the proxy configuration via web proxy auto discovery protocol. And let's say particularly special aspect of IPv6 is that we know that is that static free address configuration. It lets the clients to pick their own addresses by using the prefix announced over the connected network interface. And it's still possible for a DHCP server to be valuable in IPv6 network when it can communicate with clients about the time server, domain names, DNS servers, and more. Thanks.
Hello, Professor. As my group mates told, they told about DNS and DHCP. So I will talk their differences, advantages, and the similarities. Like here we summarize differences, purpose, and advantages of DHCP and DNS. In DNS, with the help of DNS server, domain names are translated to IP addresses, and IP addresses are translated into domain names. Like DNS server, it does not map domain names into the IP addresses, or IP addresses into the domain names. DNCP servers is used to configure the hosts mechanically. Port used DNCP runs ports in DNCP runs on port 67 and 68, but in DNS runs in the 53. This is the differences. Also, DNCP provide DHCP providing IP addresses to host for a limited amount of time, and also assigning IP addresses to the host, configuring host mechanically, and DNS resolving domains, translating domain names to IP addresses, and translating IP addresses to the domain names. Locating active directory domain server. This is also the DNS type. Type of DHCP is centralized system. DNS for decentralized system. Advantages of DNCP is reliable assigning IP addresses, and DNS prevents users from having to remember IP addresses themselves. Also, a DHCP client sends a broadcast packet, DHCP discover to discover, a broadcast packet to discover DHCP service on the LAN segment. DHCP server received the DHCP. Sorry, Professor, I got cold, and because of this first video finished, I will connect them, first and second video. Also, the DNS, I was talking about DNCP, and DNS is network protocol used to translate host names into the IP addresses. DNS is not required establishing network connection, but it also is much more easier. It's much more friendly for human shim. Considering this example, like I can say that to access the Google, we can use the DNS protocol like 216, 58, 207 and 206, but it's much more easier to like route the 3w google.com .com. Like also we can I wanna like tell how they works. DNCP discovered the client computer sends to our broadcast packet including its name and MAC address to find the DHCP server. DHCP offer a DHCP server response to discovery with an offer for an IP address is available, and DNS first goes to one of the root server which is direct into the like we can say direct to the google.com DNS server. Then google.com DNS server finds out the owner of the google.com and notifies the DNS with a name server that record for the google.com. After receiving the AU record, the DNS will send the IP address to the browser and catch the IP address of the information for the future references. And at this point, I want to finish. Thank you for listening and thank you.